Hey guys, in this video I'm gonna go over my league starter for the Dawn of the Hunt update to Path of Exile 2. And I'm gonna be playing a Deadeye Spears build. So I wanted to make a little bit more of a specific build than just like a generic Spears template. So the idea I have is using Explosive Spear and Storm Lance on a Deadeye. So the way these two skills work is you throw a spear into the ground and they gain an additional effect if you have a Frenzy Charge and consume it. So that's why I'm going Deadeye for Frenzy Charge generation with Avidity. Basically you have a 30% chance to gain up to your maximum amount of Frenzy Charges. You have an additional 5% on the tree. So the way Explosive Spear works, which is the one I want to try to focus on building around, you throw it into the ground and after 2.5 seconds it will detonate. And you have a limit of 1. But if you consume a Frenzy Charge, it will deal more damage and detonate instantly, so you don't really care about the limit, and you can just kind of spam it. So you basically generate Frenzy Charges with Combat Frenzy. Now this requires you to freeze, electrocute, or pin an enemy, and the way we're gonna generate is with Blue Flame Bracers that converts 100% of fire damage to cold. So the fire damage from the Explosive Spear will be cold damage and be able to freeze. And with the freeze we will generate Frenzy Charges and hopefully gain up to our maximum at about a third of the time. Which will be something like 6 or 7 Frenzy Charges. I think you can get 7 from just... You have 3 to start with. There's 2 here and 1 here. I think there's 1 more on the tree that you could anoint as well. I think you can get a Corruption on gloves as well. So you're gonna have something like 6 or 7 Frenzy Charges. Yeah, here's the other one. So if you get, say, 6 Frenzy Charges, you also have Perpetual Charge support, which gives you a 35% chance not to remove charges. That means if you gain up to your maximum Frenzy Charges, you can probably use Explosive Spear something like 9 or 10 times on average, which should be a pretty good burst, and hopefully in that time you'll generate another charge, which can also go up to maximum. Again, with Combat Frenzy it can generate once every 4 seconds, I believe. When the new update it's going to be nerfed a bit from this version. You can have Profusion, so 50% chance to gain an additional charge. With Quality you get 70%. So you're going to have decent Frenzy generation to hopefully be able to spam that skill. Continuously freeze packs and generate more on a single target using Sniper's Mark. Now Sniper's Mark requires you to crit to gain the Frenzy Charge, so you cast it and then on your next crit you gain the Frenzy Charge. So you want something that's going to be able to hit a little bit more often, so for that we'll be using Storm Lance as well, which also puts down like Shocked Ground. You can put Electrocute support on it to also trigger Combat Frenzy. That's probably going to be how you generate charges early on, before you have Blue Flame Bracers. So early on you're going to be more focused on Storm Lance. Storm Lance like shoots out projectiles from the spear, and you can have 3 as a baseline down at one time. They also get detonated from the Explosive Spear, so there's going to be some interplay there, at least early on. So yeah, Sniper's Mark for your single target generation. And yeah, again, I'm not sure. We haven't actually been able to play with these skills, exactly how it's gonna feel. And maybe you're gonna have to use some other skill for single target as well. Maybe one of the last tier of the skills, like there's a Spear of Solaris or something like that. Could be really good for single target. We don't really know, but that's the basic concept. To utilize these spear skills that benefit from Frenzy Charges, and that's why we are Deadeye for Avidity. You also gain a bit of extra damage from point blank. I don't know if maybe Far Shot would be better, but I feel like enemies in this game mostly like swarm to you, so you're almost always having the enemies close to you, so I think point blank is going to be better. And you also have Gathering Winds for Tailwind, and if you get your 4th lab, Wind Ward to gain a little bit more mitigation as well. So yeah, that's the basic concept of the build for the gear, I think this Idol of Uldern could be an interesting choice. It gives you +1 limit for when you don't have your frenzy charges and you're dependent on that limit for your explosive spear. So you can put 2 down into the ground to help generate those first charges on a boss or something like that. And you can put down 4 spears of the Stormlands. So you don't. It could help the build feel a little bit more smooth when you don't have your frenzy charges. But I don't think it's gonna be mandatory by any means. But it's something to think about. Again, blue flame to be able to freeze. Before that, you're gonna be relying on electrocute from the Stormlands. And then for the rest of the gear, just life resist, evasion bases mostly, some energy shield as well. So you want an energy shield helm for this thing right here, subterfuge mask. So you get an evasion per maximum energy shield on the helm, and then an ES evasion, energy shield evasion base chest as well. And with that, you're gonna get something like 1000 energy shield, and we can sustain the energy shield with Ghost Dance. And the rest of the gear just mostly evasion based. I think a Sea Glass Spear will be good, the base type that has double the crit, and it also has an int requirement, but we will have that int requirement either way. For the helm, you can use one of these soul cores that reduces or converts the requirement to dexterity a little bit to help with the attribute requirements. Otherwise, some attributes on gear is probably good. But yeah, life and resists, a little bit of attributes, and just maybe Idol of Uldern and definitely blue flame. So I have this is what the tree is looking like for the end game. I have some progressive leveling trees here as well. So starting from like level 1, I think you want to use bows early on. I also have, just as a reference, I don't know what the optimal way to level this build is gonna be, because they're changing every skill they said, and it's not included in the patch notes. So lightning arrow and lightning rod might be super nerfed. They've already been a little bit nerfed from what we've seen, but it's not too bad right now. So using bows in the early game with lightning arrow and lightning rod, maybe the Herald of Storms interaction is gonna be destroyed, but I think that could be good to generate rage anyways. Your first spirit gem is going to be Herald of Thunder, and then for the second one, so in Act 3, when you have you get your more spirit, you get 30 more spirit, right, or 40. Then you can use Combat Frenzy as well, and you can probably use Precision as well. Then if you get 40, right. So that's when you're going to start generating frenzy charges from Electrocute with your Stormlands. So you want Electrocute support at that point. If we look a little bit further progressive into the tree, you can see we take these Electrocute nodes to help with the frenzy charge generation. You can also generate frenzy charges early on with the parry mechanic from your shield, but that's gonna be, I don't know how that will feel, but I think for the first lab you will still take Avidity and try to generate frenzy charges with your parry. Otherwise, you can also start with Gathering Winds to gain Tailwind to be a little bit faster. But yeah, back to this. So early on, using bows is probably going to be better because we have a lot of projectile nodes in the start. And you can switch to spears probably when you get access to Stormlands, which should be around the end of Act 1. And then you can get into the playstyle of throwing down Stormlands and then detonating them with the explosive spear. So yeah, bows early on into spears when you get Stormlands. You have a very generic like projectile tree up until you start taking these spear nodes down here. Then you want to get the electrocute nodes, start taking some crit nodes, and some evasion up here. And then by the time you get to maps, so you can use that setup for basically until you get the blue flame bracers. That's when you want to remove these like lightning pen nodes and take the cold pen nodes, over here once you have the blue flame bracers, so all your fire is converted to cold. Hopefully they will not be too expensive at League launch. They are a very common item, so shouldn't be any major risk of them being like super expensive. And yeah, that's pretty much the extent of my idea so far. Again, for the first lab, either one of these I think can be good. I don't know how much damage you're going to be lacking early on. If you just want to take speed, go for Gathering Winds. If you want to be a little bit more powerful, take Avidity. I think I will take Avidity just to be sure and not worry too much about the speed. And then Point Blank is probably going to be the third Ascendancy. And then the fourth, yeah, the Wind Ward. But yeah, I don't want to go on for too long. Again, still just at a very like conceptual level for this build. It's hard to know exactly what's going to be good in terms of spears. In the worst case scenario, we are a Deadeye, right? So we can always probably fall back on bow skills if spears turn out to be really bad. Maybe even something like a Flicker Strike build could be good if Flicker Strike is not nerfed, if you want to use quarterstaves. I don't know. But right now I'm focused on trying out the Frenzy Charged themed spear skills. So I think Deadeye will be good for that. I'm not sure if it will be better than Huntress, but it should at least be pretty good. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Good luck to you guys on League Start, and yeah, have fun.